at the outset, I thank Dr. Rajkumar sir and all Dr. Malini ma'am for providing me an opportunity to share my thoughts as a resource person on this exploration of plant bioresources of Indian origin for sustainable and safe storage of food grains. So this is one of the burning topic of my choice and everybody's interest in this domain. So primarily I will be focusing on what are the plant bioresources that can be used for storage of food grains. So this is a very novel topic and also of national importance. I mean to say that actually. So towards before we start, just I will give you an overview of the institutes what we work actually. So in this context, I can mute my. Okay, fine. So primarily, how I can remove my this unable to see my slides itself. Just a minute. Okay, fine. Sorry for the distance. Okay. So primarily, the mandate of the institute is post-harvest utilization of indigenous raw materials. So which will be developing bio-friendly technologies, high-level pursuit for cost-effective technologies, and underpinning food safety and health and nutrition for all. So these are the main areas. In these core areas we wish to, and primarily we focus it on this. So one is an R&D in food and nutrition, and promotion of Indian industries through innovative technologies and value-added services. And more importantly, societal outreach, the cost-effective solutions for attaining nutrition security. These are the three important mandates of the institutes. And then we have a total 14 departments. I belongs to the one of the department which have been highlighted as food protectants and infestation control. And we have our additional support departments of TTBD, HRD and PMC and CIFS, Central Instrumentation Facility. Along with that, we have three resource centers at Mumbai, Hyderabad and Lucknow, and one license office at Guwahati. These are the overview of our institute in a nutshell. And primarily, I'll just give you overview of our department in that. So overview of food protectants and infestation. Since 1950, since its inception of this department, we will be primarily focusing on stored product infestation control by fumigation, and then primary focus on biopesticides and rodent pest management and entomopathogens. So in this context, is it clear or somebody is talking? Is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, fine.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, fine. Since 1950, these are the core areas. Over a period of time, there are some certain areas that has been added into the our domain. So one is on chemical fumigants, which is the gold standard fumigants. Along with that, then for development of fumigation technology for the preservation of food grains. And then is biopesticides and phytochemicals. So this is the new approaches, or it is upcoming approaches which has been used, and then alternate chemicals for storage of food grains, and then rodent biology, and then stored grain microbiology. These are the different domains what we work it here. So apart from that, so certain areas of my interest, like it is exploration of natural resources, that is a plant bioresources, how we can leverage that for storage of food grains or prevention of insect infestation in storage actually. So this is the overview of a department, the technologies or even the areas what we have worked it in there. So just I'll skip some of those just for an information for the audience, just I have included these slides. So these are the technologies from 1950s into 1924, the technologies which has been developed in that from the department. So TOT means the technology transfers, so a number of technologies which have been transferred to respective industries in that. So this is an overview of them. So just for an information. But now coming to the topic in this. So why I have selected this topic? So as all of us, we know that food production in India. So as per the economic survey, we produce a huge amount of food grains, that is close to 317 million tons. So that means we have a self-reliant country, like it is, we produce a good amount of food grains, and we are topped in millet production and tops in spices production. And we stand even top one in the even milk production in the globe actually. And then others we rank 2 in vegetable production and leads in some of the fruit productions, including bananas, guava, papaya and lemon and lime actually. And then these are the contributions that all of us, it is in the sectors, respective sectors, which has been catering into. But apart from that, although we produce such a huge amount of food grains, but the losses of food grains is very high. And once the food grains has been prepared or it has been even ready, so the storage is one of the important aspect. And then, as I mentioned, the storage happens in the three different tiers. One is the unorganized sector, so what we call it as a at even farmers level, there is a storage of food grains that happens. And the second one, the traders level also food grains, some quantity which will happen. And the third one is an organized sector where the food grains will have been stored in with a proper SOP, means with a scientific approach we store them. That is in most of our Food Corporation of India, central warehouses, or it is in even state warehouses. So these are the organized areas where food grains has been properly stored and it has been served up to the consumers in that. But the unorganized sectors like it is even farmers at the traders level, we have a certain challenges, but how to address them? Actually. Storage is not the problem. The insects which has been associated with during the storage condition is the biggest problem with this. So these are the general storage mechanism that everybody, all of us, we are aware day-to-day life in that actually. That is indoor storage systems. Still we have at our village level, these are the common storage practices which we see it in that. And the second one is an outdoor storage. And the third one is an improved storage mechanisms. So right now we have like it is even a small quantity storage at marginal and semi-marginal farmers at household level we have, and improved the metal silos where the loose grains can be stored in bigger volumes, and these silos consumes 1/3 of the storage capacity. So that means to say that godowns occupies huge amount of area. This metal silos consumes only 1/3 of the space, and this can be stored in loose grains also. But in case of godowns, we need to be bagged and then it has to be stacked in particular area, and it has to be maintained particular even fumigation conditions. So why we need to store the food grains? That is an important question. The one is the grains needed for consumption, number one. And second one, the grains are also needed for seed purpose, for agriculture purpose. And the grains are also needed for a trade, either for export potentiality. And the last one, it can also be needed for some time of natural calamities. That is of national emergency, maybe like it is a famine and floods. So in all these conditions, some quantity of grains or the grains has to be stored at particular places in that. So what happens when the insect infests these grains actually? So inherent insects which has been associated with all these food grains leads to the qualitative and quantitative loss. So that means to say that, and then it decreases nutritional value. So, and it decreases the viability, the seed viability. That means to say that these food grains is not only causes economic loss, but it causes a nutritional loss to the country. That is most important. Whatever we produce, which we are not able to even utilize it for our own sake. So this is due to the small quantity or the different types of insects which has been associated during the storage conditions. So just to give an overview. So what is the loss of food grains in India? So it is according to an estimate, it is close to 4.6 to 6%. So 4.6 to 6% loss, and average it is a 5% of the food grains what we produce in India. There has been a loss in that actually. That means to say that so 300 and average of 300 million tons we produce, and then in that close to 20 million tons is a loss from this during storage conditions. So what are the class of insects which has been responsible for this kind of losses? So right side I have mentioned some of the pictures of insects, which is called vivids, which are the major one. Second one is the borers, and then is the beetles actually. These are the three class of insects which causes huge damage during the food grain storage actually. This is, hence we call them as, this is a non-scientific methods of grain storage, which leads to both economical and nutritional loss. So just let us look into the what are the class of insects, and then if you map against each kind of commodity, agriculture commodity. But in most of us, we have, I think, noticed these kind of insects during our day-to-day life, I think. So whenever we are storing these kind of food grains, be in the rice or it is even wheat or it is in many of the pulses. So at home, you might have seen all these kinds of insects which has been associated with each kind of raw material. So one of those is Cytophilus verae, which is the commonest most important or the predominant insect in most of the cereal grains. Followed by the pulses, we have a Calosebruchus, and many of the spices, including the coffee and even turmeric, chili powders, and the tobacco. We have a cigarette beetle called as a Lasioderma, and then we have the milled products also. That means the products which has been milled from, like it is a flour, like it is rice or it is wheat. We have huge amount of triboliums and also the rhizoperta. These are the insects which has been associated with many of them. So this would be the biggest challenge in those. So apart from that, we have even moth species, and then also some of those beetles which has been very much even affecting the trade, which includes like a copra beetle or a Trogoderma. So this is the most important one which we have to declare it during the QPS, that is quarantine and pre-shipment. Any even consignment which goes outside India, it needs to be declared against these kind of specifically this copra beetle actually. So these are the major insects which most of us we have been come across during our day-to-day life or during the storage of food grains in that. But how do we prevent them during from their attack onto the particular agricultural commodity? That is the challenge. So these are the infestations and their damages. Just we can notice that actually. So this is some kind of a small kind of a hole on even each kernel which has been damaged in that actually, even including the maize. So this is the green gram, and then also this is even cashew nut actually. So even coffee. So this is on wheat flour. So this is on even many of the seeds of even cumin seeds actually. So these are the common methods. So then how do you prevent them? The general practice is, so the best one is the physical methods, like it is drying the food grains and bring them to the safe moisture level, that is less than 13% for most of the cereal grains. And for even oil seeds, it is less than 7%. These are the common methods. And sanitation of the storage side and improved storage structures, we have mentioned it in that. And disinfestation for the bulk storages or the bags which has been used. These are the preventive methods which we can identify. But apart from that, is there any other methods? So these are not sufficient enough to even control the insect infestation. So some of the physical methods, the temperature management, or even the cold temperatures, or irradiation methods, or any kind of devices or the traps or the pheromone traps that people will be using. These are the common one. But apart from the biological methods, which we call them as semiochemicals, botanicals, and biopesticides, this area is of my interest, or it is of gives a good interest in that. So they where natural resources of plant origin can be repurposed, or it can be utilized for storage of food grains. And even many of the chemical managements like fumigations, like it is use of aluminum phosphate or aluminum, or this is the only the gold standard method that has been used for storage of food grains. That is the chemical method, like use of phosphine gases. But this has got its own challenge, because this can be used only at the godowns or the storage yards actually, or it is even the corporate warehouses actually. But we cannot use it at even a home level or at the village level, because many times this gas is highly poisonous in nature. Number one, because and then it has got a huge amount of vapor pressure, and it diffuses very quickly in the air. And whatever we inhale, we doesn't know that one what kind of gas we are inhaling, and it is highly toxic in nature. And the TLV level is a threshold level for even human consumption is only 150 ppm. That is sufficient for even human to even it can cause a death to the human beings also. That is highly toxic gas, so that we cannot rely it upon at household level. But as I mentioned it in my previous slide also, storage happens at even farmers level, and storage happens even at the traders level. How do we encounter it actually? How do you prevent their insect infestation by any other method? So this would be mainly dependent on some of those like biopesticide methods or use of botanicals that can be used. So this is the currently practiced some of the chemical insecticides that we have used it. Presently, it is in practice or it has been recommended. So for the direct grain application, we use phosphine. But for a methyl bromide, again, it is a restricted usage because of its ozone depletion property. Then the prophylactic agents like malathion, which has been banned from last 2023 of March, and we have left with only one delta methylene synthetic pyrethroid. This is for application of godowns, and then non-grain applications. That means to say that India, we produces close to 300 billion tons of food grains. but entirely be dependent on only on one curative agent, which is called a phosphine. So rest all of them is under severe, like it is what you call it as even regulatory implications, which leads to the non-usage of these kind of chemicals in that. So it is very difficult to manage with only one kind of fumigant or one kind of chemical for storage or preservation of such kind of food grains, such amount of voluminous amount of food grains in that country. So we need to look for some of the alternate chemicals or alternate strategies that can be used to preserve the food grains in that. So why we need to spray them? This is like it is. This can be some of the approaches how we can do that actually. So apart from that, since the continuous usage of this phosphine has also led to some kind of resistance in a particularly stored grain insect pest. That means to say that the over usage or over reliance of phosphine, which leads to the resistance in the particularly specifically on some of the major insect species of Cytophilus and also in Rhizoporta. So second one is environmental protection, such as use of methyl bromide has been banned completely. So, or it is phase-wise, it has been removing from country to country. And strict actions on the regulatory agencies, like it is whatever it has been registered, now they have even banned some of those chemicals in the country. So that means to say that forcibly we need to look for new alternatives for storage of food grains. What are those actually? Some of those contact pesticides, that would be some of those has a potentiality from many of the botanicals, gaseous agents, and then chitin synthesis inhibitors or insect growth regulators, or semiochemicals, either it may be on pheromones or on attractants or repellents that the plant sources can provide. And the last one is the source of some of those botanicals. Either it can be a contact or it can be a good fumigant in that actually. So generally, these are the scientific methods many of us we knew. Just for information, just I have shared this. This is the three approaches are the gold standard approaches which we use it. Fumigation with the chemicals or hermetic methods, which we call them as non-chemical approaches, where self-modified atmosphere itself acts as a storage conditions or provides a good storage condition, and the use of silos. So this is the fumigation methods, generally how they do it. And this is fumigation condition. This can be operated only in presence of a trained personnel, which is needed, because otherwise these are highly toxic. And then the personnel involved himself can put under his life under risk actually. So this is under hermetic methods, where these are the simple approaches, where the small kind of bags, which can be liners, which can be used for storage of food grains in this. This is the simple approaches where they use self-modified atmosphere itself can provide a good prevention against most of the insects in that actually. So this is the bulk storage inside, indoor storage and outdoor storages. And these are the metal silos which has been coming up in the country. So this is for a loose grains, how do they operate it? Just for any information I'm sharing in this. So apart from that, the pest management through botanicals. So of natural origin, how does it? So it is since 1940, but towards, if you look at the literature, since 2020, lot of information which has been documented towards the usage of botanicals. Look, 45% of the publications which are coming up is towards many of the botanicals has got an impact, or it has got an importance, or it has got an application in towards insect management. Specifically for a stored grain insect management, just I am mentioning all of them which belongs to that is a class of coleopterans in that actually. So if you look at the insecticide development in over a period of last 50 years or even 70 years. So in 1940s only, a lot of organophosphorus insecticides has been invented or even discovered, and over a period of time, number of insecticides which has been discovered during recent years has been diminished, and still we dependent on the insecticides which has been synthesized or even discovered during 1970s or 1940s. So we don't have because even the amount of R&D expenditure on the new class of insecticide is also very high. And even given the regulatory aspects are also very stringent in this domain. So that's why there is no new insecticide registrations which happens in this domain. So entirely we need to depend on some kind of a new alternatives in this section. So in this context, like many of the insecticide which targets nerve and muscle only. So other growth regulators are very less in this domain. and the respiratory targets are very few. So most of the insecticides, I mean to say that they targets only on the insect nerve and muscle system. So the new approaches, if at all, if you look into that actually. So why we need to look into new approaches? The current issues is the regulations on the existing fumigants, limitations on the regulations, and fewer pesticides alternatives and insecticide resistance. So, and also the consumers are all aware of that they need some kind of a residue-free foods, or even everybody, consumers are so aware that the pesticides, what has been incorporated in any kind of a processing, that has to be declared on each of their, like it is any kind of food ingredient or a packet, anything. So conventional grain protectants, some of them are which has been listed out here, but the new approaches is, can we use the essential oils because it has gotten a good vapor pressure. That means to say that many of the fumigants works on a good vapor pressure, and the plant pots are the botanicals that can also be repurposed for usage of even control of insects actually. So for during storage conditions. So these are the important two new approaches. Just I will going to touch upon this in this section. The plant bioresources of Indian origin. So specifically, these insecticides are even can be derived from some of those plant bioresources, specifically on the scope of plant essential oils. So the essential oils is nothing but plant produces some kind of an essence in form of oil actually. So the plant secretes a small quantity for its own defense. So can we use those essential oils for control of stored grain insect pests? Is it possible? So yes, it can be possible. Some of those results I will share it with you, and then how it has been scaled up into the as a small kind of a technology that I will also share it at the end of the presentation. So plants, as all of us we know, just to give a brief introduction on what are those essential oils. Plants are capable of producing two kinds of oils, which is called as a fixed oil and also an essential oil. So fixed oil is nothing but all of us, we knew that primary oils, which we call them as groundnut oils, whatever we use, these are all the fixed oils. That is from the glycerol biosynthesis, which we use it. So the essential oils, it is not meant for plant, it produces some kind of an essence and in terms of in the form of oil. So that's why we call them as essential oil. So it is volatile in nature and it is a secondary metabolite. It is not a primary metabolite. That means to say that plant produces in these kind of essential oils only during some kind of a stress. Either it may be a biotic stress or it may be an abiotic stress actually. It is not, it produces only for its own defense against some kind of a predators or during only the insect attack. So, or it can be adverse conditions, plant can adapt itself. So these kind of essential oils, which can be used for multi-purpose in usage of either in case of cosmetics, or it can be used as in health and agriculture. So many of the essential oils has gotten good anti-insecticidal activity as documented in many of the literature. And also it has been used for many of the flavor industries. So right now I will be talking about some of those plant species of Indian origin. Specifically, I'll be touching upon only the ocimum species and also the mint species, which has gotten a huge amount of chemotypes in India, and all of them has gotten huge diversity. And then chemodiversity and also chemical diversity associated with these two Lamiaceae members is very high. And then if at all, if you can explore these two plant species, we can have a good leads for a biopesticides. That is an important aspect. So important one is as I mentioned, is the storage of food grains is quite challenging with the use of chemical insecticides. Why I mean to say that? Because the use of fumigants or a post-fum fumigation is not been so eco-friendly. That means to say that we cannot use it at each and every places. So because farmers level, it has got its own challenge. So it is not an eco-friendly approach. And then although it is very affordable or it is not economical, or I mean to say that, or inexpensive, but it is toxicity profile is very high. So in this context, so that's why the food grain storage is quite challenging, and it has become quite challenging in the present day. And also the limited availability and also imposition on the current usage of pesticides actually. This is another one. Day by day, Central Insecticide Board has gotten a lot more regulations and also impositions on the usage of few of the specifically insecticides used for food grains application. So in this case, a number of insecticides which has been allowed for the usage of food grains has been limiting now. So in these cases, can we use whatever the traditional knowledge which has been associated with Indian herbs with a different kind of a scientific approach for manage of like it is stored grain insecticides, which can be an economically viable and also an environmentally safe option. So can we use them? So what are those? If at all, if it has been, if we accept that, then how do we use these traditional knowledge which has been associated with the system? So this is the one I have already mentioned this. So just to touch upon these essential oils, as I mentioned, these essential oils are volatile in nature. It is one of the good property of an insecticide, and it is not soluble in water. That is also one of the good property. And many of the essential oils has a density which is lesser than water. That is also one of the important property which we needed for as an insecticide. And it also exhibits some kind of an antimicrobial property, because insect infestation not only leads to complete damage, but it also leads to the fungal attack also subsequently. That means to say that so it has got a good antifungal property, which has been an inherent property of these essential oils. So some of those essential oils, why it produces, how it produces, this is the biosynthetic pathway of many of the secondary metabolites which produces. Either they belongs to monoterpenes, either they belongs to phenylpropanoids, or they belongs to sesquiterpenes. That means to say that carbon nucleus of either C10, C15 could be a good candidates for many of the insecticidal property traits. So many, where does it synthesizes? In general, these are all the synthesized in a plant system and in a specialized sector called as a trichomes. So these are the trichomes are, as all of you know that one, this is a very small, tiny structures, or it is hairy-like structures which has been on the plant surfaces. And these are the reservoirs for many of the essential oil biosynthesis. And these structures will contain huge amount of essential oils. And then these are the areas where trichome structures which has been depicted in scanning electron microscopy on the leaf surfaces of many of them. So essential oils from different plants, just I have listed out for your purpose, just general information. So coming to them, like it is generally we have already known their usage actually. This can be used in cosmetics, perfumes, flavors, pharmaceuticals, and cleaning. But the unknown area is some of those as already explored, but still it is a very nascent domain, which we call them as insect repellents in that actually. So that's why I mentioned it as like it is in a green color. This is the green, like it is an hotspot, or it is a gray spot actually, where we can do a lot of research in that, and then this could leads to many kind of a new chemical insecticidal leads can be obtained from this area of essential oils. So what are those important source of plants which provide huge amount of essential oils? So it is not only in a small quantity, but it is also in the trade. So number one is many of the grasses which are called as lemon grasses, and then citronella grasses, and palmarosa, and the geranium, patchouli, and then many of the osmum chemotypes, and then rosemary, and then also davana, and then this is Artemisia pallens, what we call them, and also mint, and then thyme. These are the important species which has been produces huge amount of essential oils, and also they have got an export potentiality from these plants actually. So this is not just a small cultivation. This is a commercial cultivation as also happens on these from these crops, and these are also into the trade. And they have got many of the farmers, they cultivate it and they sell these essential oils for even many of the whatever I mentioned it for cosmetic industries or flavor industries of export potentiality. So can we use these essential oils for storage of food grains? So if at all, if it is, what are the chemical constituents which has been associated with each of them? So as I mentioned, this contains many of them are essential oils belongs to the terpenes, chemically contains terpenes, or it is terpenoids, phenylpropanoids, so belongs to the various carbon chain length. So they may be like it is a C5 compounds or C10 compounds, or it is C15 sesquiterpenes, or diterpenes of C20 or triterpenes of C30. So these are the molecules which has been associated with many of the plant species, and which one is associated with what, just I will describe it in my further slides. For example, many of the monoterpenes nucleus, which belongs to like it is a C10 compounds, which contains limonins, myrcins, and also in terpenes. So oxygenated hydrocarbons like linalool, citronellol, and geraniols. These are all many of the camphor species. These are all oxygenated monoterpenes. Means C10 compound contain oxygen units. And sesquiterpene units, which is caryophyllines, many of this like curry patta, whatever we have, curry leaves, which contains that is caryophyllines and farnesins and oxygenated sesquiterpenes. So, and the phenols, like it is eugenol, like it is olibacil, many of them what we offer it, it contains huge amount of eugenol and also thymol, which is also one of those key ingredient for even the control of insecticides in that actually. So these are the, if you can map those, whatever I am saying, the plant species and also their chemical constraints and their industries which has been associated. So these are the just in nutshell, eucalyptus, which contains huge amount of citronellol and citronellal. So that means to say that both aldehyde and alcohol, which has been associated with eucalyptus. This is a good natural combination. So no other plants will provide you this kind of natural combination, both citronellal, Al, and citronellal, OL. So this is a both aldehyde and alcohol, both which has been associated with eucalyptus plant. So, and then lemongrass, which is a good flavor of a lemon, which is a lemon flavored, which is called as a citrol. And then another is a mosquito repellents, what we see it in a market. So like it is a natural mosquito repellents, which is a citronella. Again, it contains citronellal and Al and OL along with the geraniol. So, and then Pomarosa, many of the agarbatti industries, we have a rose flavored compound, which is called geraniol, which is almost, it gives you a rose flavored aroma. So equivalent to the rose, most of the agarbatti industries dependent on Pomarosa industries. And then Patchouli, which is gives you a patchouli alcohol, which is a sesquiterpene, which gives you some kind of a flavor, which is even whenever the rain comes, we have an earthy odor. So similar kind of earthy odor, you will get it from patchouli alcohol. And this will be cultivated even with many of the intercrops with arecanut actually. This is a shade loving plant in that. So this is a huge cultivation which happens. And then rosemary, this is an high altitude crop and it contains many of the 1,8-cinnol, which is many of the camphor aroma actually. So this is linalool, which is also a very pleasant aroma, which contains present in most of our ocimums also. And then sandalwood, and then scented geranium, all of them which will be there in perfumery industries. And then these are the compounds which can be explored for insecticidal activity. So although it looks very, these compounds of natural origin, which exhibits a good chemistry and which cannot be synthesized at laboratory conditions. So these natural sources can be utilized, or semi-synthetic derivatives from these compounds can be synthesized, and it has got a huge potentiality for insecticide development. So this is the chemistry. As I mentioned, isoprene units, this is a C5 molecule. They join together into a C10 in a particular fashion, head and tail joining. So this becomes a monoterpene chemistry of this. So this is monoterpenes, as I mentioned, each monoterpene carbon number is 10, which contains 2 isoprene units. Sesquiterpene contains 15 carbon, and it contains 3 isoprene units. Diterpenes, which contains 20 carbons, and it has 4 isoprene units. Triterpenes, which contains 30, which contains 6 isoprene. This is a particular fashion which occurs in the nature. So we cannot have supremacy over nature, and we cannot able to artificially synthesize these kind of compounds also. So if you look into the monoterpene classifications, many of these monoterpenes which has been associated with a particular plant system, specifically of an ocimum species, so which has got immense potentiality, or in whatever the classes I mentioned it, immense potentiality against many of the insect species of stored grains. So be whether it is a geraniol, alpha terpene, or a cinnol, or a menthol from mint, and then menthol from even carbon from many of the mint species. So these are all got an good chemistry and also insecticidal repellence in this. So essential, then you might ask you one more question also. If these compounds are produced in a small quantity in a plant system, how do we get it in a bulk quantity? So what are the equipments which has been needed? or how we can downstream these kind of like it is essential oils from plant system, or how do we extract this actually. So these are all the just some of those distillation is a common hydro distillation which has been needed for essential oil extraction from plant sources or even herbage actually. So these are the distillation, simple distillations, because since its vapor pressure is high or it is density is lesser than water, these two properties or it is quite important properties for downstreaming of these essential oils from plant sources. So there are different methods. So this is hydrodistillation is one of the simplest method that people use it for extraction of essential oils, steam distillation, and then supercritical fluid extraction. These are all advanced method, but generally many of the farmers use hydrodistillation as one of those method, or steam distillation is one of the method for bulk extraction of essential oils in this. So many of them, this is at the laboratory scale, we can use them. This has got, this is called as a Clevenger operators. So which can be used for even demonstration of essential oil extraction for the students also. So this is like 200 grams of any kind of herbage, or it is in even what you call it as eucalyptus leaves, you can take it in the distillation RBF. And then this is the Clevenger operators, which is a setup which we can call them. We can boil at 60 degree and it will start evaporating and it will recondense it at one stage, and then it will collecting essential oil will be connected and the graduated unit here. So as I mentioned, it is a Pomerosa. This what is the percentage of oil which you can call them also, or you may ask actually how much percentage of oil will be associated with each plant. So for example, citronella or lemongrass, it contains 0.8% to 1% of oil. This much is sufficient for a bulk production actually. So that means to say that 1 ton gives almost 8 kgs of oil. 0.8%. So it is, or it is even 12 kg of oil in that actually. So that is sufficient in that. So then these are the even like it is a big scale or even farmer scale orders we can extract. This is almost 1 ton capacity of distillation unit. It is a simple like it is a pressure cooker type unit actually. So 500 kgs, 500 kgs you can load this and then you can distill them. So these are the, once you distill it, then you can look into the essential oil extraction, and then it is even quality, whether the quality has come clearly or not. So as I mentioned it, this is the lemongrass which contains a citral of 75%. So how does it appear? So this is the gas chromatography peak, which you can see that citral 1 and citral 2. So both it is 75%. Along with that, this is the fingerprint of the essential oil which comes out from this lemongrass. So similarly, citronella, as I mentioned, it contains citronellol and AL and OL. Both will be there in that, both aldehyde and then also an ketone in that, alcohol. Sorry. So these two, this is the fingerprint of them. And also this is a geranium oil. So this you can see that many of the even garlands, whatever they use it, they have a small quantity of this geranium. We call them Kannada, we call them as paneer patre. So this is one of those commonly used, but it is highly priced essential oil, which also contains a good amount of citronellol and geraniol. This is a natural format actually. We don't have any in other plant species of containing citronellol and geraniol. So this ratio decides the quality of essential oil. So it has got a huge perfumery industry demand and also of export potentiality. And then rosemary plant. So this is most of our Ooty and Kodaikanal. You might have seen this kind of plant in that high altitudes in that. So there also contains huge amount of alpha pinene and also camphor or 1,8-cinnol. So this has got like a camphor smell, but not exactly the camphor. Camphor is a solid substance, it sublimes, but this is a liquid one. It gives a similar kind of an aroma, and it is also as in got an insecticidal repellency. So again, it is an eucalyptus, has a different species, Eucalyptus globulus and Eucalyptus citrodora. So which contains Eucalyptus citrodora, which is a citronellol rich actually. So which is nearby, earlier we used to grow, this one is nearby polar area. Now this has been banned in those eucalyptus cultivations in those, but in roadsides of we have like plantations many either side of the roads, even highways, national highways, we have this kind of citrodora plantations also. And Eucalyptus globulus, which will be there in many of even Coimbatore area, paper mill industries, entirely dependent on globulus species. So even this leaves contains alpha pinene and 1,8-cinnol. So then Pomerosa, what I'm saying is earlier, this would be a huge cultivation happens around Tamil Nadu and South Tamil Nadu area. So it contains huge amount of geraniol, which is an equivalent of rose aroma. So rose petals, whatever it gives, equivalent amount of aroma, we will get it from geraniol. So this is of huge, many of the agarbatti industries, they are entirely dependent on this kind of a crop. And this inflorescence gives that kind of a aroma in that actually. And this is what the patchouli alcohol I am mentioning. So which contains patcholol, which is patchouli alcohol, and guanine actually. These two are both are very good candidates for having an aroma in that. So then is another one is vetiver, which is in a coastal belt. Many of that we call them as a lavancha. So which has been grown in most of our coastal belt, start from Gujarat to Orissa. So all this will be has been a soil bioremediation, and also it prevents soil erosion in that actually. And these roots has gotten a good amount of essential oil, which is called as vetiver oil. We call them as in the key ingredients, which includes beta vetivone and also cushimol. So these are all sesquiterpenes, which gives such a kind of an aroma, and it has gotten a huge export potentiality to Indonesia and then Burma. So this is another one is Trachisperma mammi, which is ajwain. This is one of the important compound which comes out from this is thymol. So this is a cold adapted plant which grows in northern India. So in southern India, similar kind of plant, like it is molecules which has been associated with even some of the Asimum species also. Now which I'll discuss in further slides in that. So this thymol has gotten a huge potentiality as both antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral property. And this property is also been further explored for even anti-insecticidal properties that I will describe it in next slides. So, and then this is the Davana oil, which cultivates in and around Devanhalli surroundings, and also even Mulbagal area. So this is also of a huge potentiality. So if you come into the Osimum species, the last one, just I will come back to the species of Osimum. So the members of Osimum species, which contains huge diverse chemicals, and which starts from which is holy basil or sweet basil, or it is other species of Osimum, which contains a diverse group of chemicals. So whatever we Osimum holy basil, Osimum sanctum, we call them, which is eugenol rich, and whatever the Osimum species of sweet basil, which contains good amount of linalool and also methyl chemical, which has been explored for insecticidal property. And also in apart from another lamiaceae member of mentha. So earlier mentha is mentha produces menthol mint actually. So menthol mint, or it is a menthol, which India earlier we used to import it. Today we are in exporting this menthol crystals, so from this plant cultivations actually. And huge amount of this mentha species cultivations happens around Uttar Pradesh area. So now it is we can call them as Uttar Pradesh is even the menthol capital of the country actually. Today we are exporting huge amount of menthol from the farmers who cultivates menthol species in that. So there are huge amount of different varieties of menthol which is cultivating. One is mentha arvensis, which gives huge amount of menthol and also limonene. Around 60% of menthol, natural menthol, comes from this mentha arvensis in this area. And then also mentha spicata is a spearmint, which contains a carvone, which is also a good insecticidal property. And then mentha piperata, which again a source of menthol. So it is around 72% of menthol it produces from this plant species. So then if you look at those, this is an occurrence of all these metabolites, which has been there, are secondary metabolites present in plant species. But how do we use them actually? But if you look at the literature, many of the Osimum species which has been used for control of scrotum insects. So look at just some of those Osimum basilicum, Osimum gratissimum, and Osimum gratissimum of diverse chemical entities, either in presence of thymol 54%, thymol in 30%, and then eugenol, and also its variant methyl eugenol of 64%, And some of the Osimum basilicum species has 70% of methyl eugenol, and Osimum basilicum contains estragol, or it is methyl cavicol of 74%. This is of almost like it is specialty chemicals which will be produced from natural habitat actually. So this kind of essential oils which is rich in one kind of compound, or it is multiple compound. So that can be used for control of many of the insects. That is, for example, Cytophilus, even Triboliums, Rhizoperta, and even some of the Oryzophilus. So, and then also even pulse beetles, Calissobrucus. This has been reported in that actually. So, and then for many of the mint species, so this has been reported for even control of most of the pulse beetles. So for the pulses, storage of pulses, which we can, or it is green gram, red gram. So that can be used for even control of usage of even mint oils in that. So like it is Mentha arvensis, even and Mentha piperata, which has been used for many of them, which has got both insecticidal and like a contact activity, and also the fumigant toxicity, which has been even documented in the literature. And it is not only even controls most of the adults, even it controls even the larvae, and also even the ovicidal effect has also been noticed with these kind of essential. That is one of the important property. So that is needed for stored grain insect management in that actually. So some of those essential oils which can be used against for control of pest which is there in the wheat and rice includes even geraniol, thymol, terpinforol, which is one of those which can be able to control both oviposition and also even acetylcholine esterase inhibition in many of the insect species. And then even 1,8-cinolone, this can be used for control of Cytophilus oryzae, Triboliums. So on, then Rhizoperta dominica from even Comerines. This is phenolic compounds from natural sources. So these are all the important aspects. Even the key target sites also has been even indicated, or it has been elaborated or even elucidated from this plant species. So these are the list of essential oils. So that means to say that for commodity wise, just I have mapped it for rice and wheat. What are the compounds that they have listed out? And for the maize, another macro cereal, what are the important one they have mapped it? So these are the list goes on like this actually. Many plant species, unexplored plant species, which are of Indian origin, that can be used for control of many of the insect species. Like this in that actually. So if you look at only the Osimum species, just I will describe only 3 species in this: Osimum basilicum, Osimum sanctum, and Osimum graticum. So one is holy basil, sweet basil, and then next one is the clove basil. So this can be used for synthesis of some of those green pesticides, or they even has a property of natural property of insect repellent property, and during storage of food grain management. These are the some of those compounds which will be associated with each of the plant system. So Osimum sanctum, which is rich in eugenol, that is we call them as holy basil, and the sweet basil, which is rich in methyl cavicol, and the clove basil, which is rich in thymol, and Osimum kilimandacasarum. So this is rich in camphor. So this can also be used for the storage of food grains in that. So if you look at this, if you take the GC profile of them, and then Osimum gratissimum, which contains thymol, terpinine, and then O-cymene, which can able to control even Cytophilus oryzae for many of the wheat, and also even for rice, and also for even maize actually. So which is the key ingredient which is there in is thymol. And this is a simple insecticidal bioassay or a fumigant assays which we have done it, and it shows a good insecticidal property against them. And even at the volume of 10 microliters to even 20 microliters, it has shown almost 80% insecticidal mortality. So even contact insecticide and also fumigant toxicity has been elucidated, and we have noticed there will be like it is a loss of like it is even primary setae, loss of on the secondary setae, or even the what you call it as appendages of insects has been also been damaged by the fumigant toxicity of this kind of insects. There will be a enlargement of their gas exchanges pores, which has been associated with that. And this is for the binary combinations of thymol and then carboprol. So which has been, thymol is one of those similar compound, and then carboxyl is, thymol is a solid compound, and this is carboxyl is a liquid material in that. So both of them, which contains similar components, can be used for control of like it is insecticidal property, or their combinations can be used for control of insecticides or many of the stored grain insecticides. So this is once even we have done like some of those even contact toxicity, and along with that germination test of the treated grains, which many of the treated grains also retains a good amount of germination. That means to say that this doesn't has, these oils doesn't has any kind of a negative effect on the seed germination of these kind of grains which has been treated with essential oils. And if you do even some of those insecticidal, like it is a transcriptome analysis of many of the essential oils, treated cytophilus, even rice weevils, which we have noticed that actually many of them, which even overexpresses or even overexpression of differential expression of the genes, which is specifically for even cytochromes, or it is even how does they activate actually, how does the mode of action of these essential oils. Many of them has been responsible for even like it is what you call it as a cytotoxic respiratory enzymes, which has been highly upregulated in the system, and also many of the odorant binding proteins has been highly upregulated or downregulated in the system, and cytochromes and also glutathione and transferases. So detoxification mechanism is been upregulated, and odorant binding proteins has been downregulated in the system. So this is some of those. And similarly, Ocimum basilicum for even green grams also been done. So which we have used it for control of pulses. If the treated grains, which can show many of those untreated grains, infested grains, it will be looks like this. So once it has been treated with even essential oil, the grains look same. The pulses are highly susceptible for insect attack actually, that can be even prevented by usage of this, even sweet basil. So this is the one of those with the grain conditions. How does it looks actually? So estragol is one of those which has been used as a carrier material or as a main ingredient for control of many of the pulse beetles. This is how the even dislodgement of even their features, like it is primary setae, and has been even enlargement of their primary gaseous exchange, like it is structures has been distorted. And this is different concentrations of even essential oils that has been used, even up to 10% of essential oil, even maximum 25% of essential oil, which can be used even for the prevention, not even absolute 100% essential oil. Even 25% is sufficient to even prevent insect infestations. These are the treated grains, even without any kind of infestations, you can see this. Then their germination potential, which we have done it in this. So then how do we use them actually? So in a bulk storage, this is another challenge. For a laboratory level, this is fine. Like it is for usage of 5 grams, or like it is 10 grams or 10 ml. But the volume of food grains, what we produce it is in big quantity. So this is the equipment which we have designed it. So that is called as a biofumigation equipment, where you can use, this is an equipment where you can store all these grains and treated with essential oils with a particular even airflow and also the carrier material, and it can be fumigated for 5 days. So inside the container, how does it looks actually? And then it can be regulated with the outer design with both the temperature control and also humidity control. That can be used for the fumigation of at least 250 kg grains to 1 ton capacity. So this is the same, like how do we scale up using the essential oil for a bulk storage of grains. This can be used for multiple grains, and also the multi-fume can also be used, means multiple essential oils can also be used for prevention here. So this can be used for control of all the kind of rice weevil and lesser grain borers, and also even triboliums can be used for multiple agriculture commodity, starts from rice, wheat, and also even pulses and millets can also be used using this kind of equipment. And these are the some of the representative publications from our research lab. containing osimum species for multiple usages of even control of aflatoxins, and then rice we will, and then aflatoxin control and essential oils from specifically for even this can be embedded in some of the packaging material, polymer matrices for even biodegradable polymers, which we have even this year we have done that also. So this is the some of the outcomes on use of essential oils and especially use of mentha essential oils, which one is very much important for usage. So these are the representative publications which can be there in the public domain. And any interested people, you can refer them or you can get back to us. Thank you once again. So any questions are there, I'm happy to answer them.
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon,
Yes,
sir.
please. Yes, ma'am.
Myself, Dr. Hindata from KSOU.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
were talking about essential oils being used as insecticide for fumigation and all those things.
Yes,
Before we essential oils.
ma'am, I can't hear you. Like it is, I think there was. Yeah, ma'am. Can you repeat, ma'am? Can you repeat?
Will there not be any? No, what I said was you're processing essential oils, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So will the
Ma'am, I'm unable to hear your question, ma'am. Actually, there was some.
oil
Madam, your voice is breaking. Your voice
Ma'am.
is not so clear, madam.
Ma'am, you can type it in the chat box, ma'am. I can answer it also.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This
Please.
is Dr. Chandrasekhar from Davangere University.
Yes, sir. Please.
Sir, because we are using more pesticides for growing these crops,
Yes, sir.
can these pesticides can be the host nowadays for these insects?
May not be, sir. May not be. But these are all the pest which occurs during post-harvest, actually, not the pre-harvest. So pesticide applications will be there in most of the pre-harvest, actually, during crop production only. So once the crop has been harvested, and then even the infestation happens even at the field level, many of the pulses actually. And then generally the farmers' practice is they will definitely they will dry this commodity to the safe moisture level. So either to the bring it up to the less than 13%, or even for the oil seeds less than 7%. Even after that, so the reinfestation happens during the storage condition. Even if they get a good, sometimes they used to go preserve it for their own consumption, or sometimes they preserve it for their trade actually. So during this time, the infestation happens, and then this will be causes both the economical loss and also the nutritional loss. So whatever we observe it is the only the adult species which comes out. So, but the hidden infestation happens within the grain itself. So the inside the grain, whatever the commodities it is meant for nutrition, so that has been completely eaten up by these kind of insects, which are very minute, but their impact is very high. So many of them, all this will be even supplied to during this bulk storage, which happens in FCI godowns only. And then the end users will be either it will be PDS scheme, public distribution scheme, we will provide it, or it may goes for Anganwadis. So the not only economical loss, but it is a nutritional loss for the country. So is there any kind of a simple or a sustainable approach that can be adopted? Number one. And then it is a cost effectiveness. And if the technology which has been available, so how do we translate them? And then how we can leverage these kind of, like it is a simple approaches. So Asimum, everybody knows actually. And every farmers, even it may grows in their field itself. So how can we use them? So either essential oil cultivation or even making essential oils is a very simple approach. Even just it is reskilling or skill upgradation is that much is sufficient for them. They have this all this traditional knowledge only. But how can we use this knowledge for their own purpose? That itself prevents many of these post-harvest losses, sir, actually. That is the intention.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, myself Santosh Kumar.
Yes, sir, please, sir.
Question is the market is available if you grow for this oil producing grass and all,
Yes,
like
sir.
grass and all?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There is a huge business in this. Essential Oil Association and Essential Oil business is a very organized business in the country. But we need to know what kind of plants we need to grow in what geography. So,
Okay.
because, for example, in many of these dryland areas, so because as I mentioned, these are the secondary metabolites which will be produced in the plant system. That means to say that only during the abiotic stress they produce very in a good quantity. That means they need some kind of an environmental trigger, either in case of extreme temperature, either extreme drought. Actually, they able to grow. That means the zero maintenance. I mean to say that these are all zero maintenance crops are actually. So day by day, even as we know that the rainfall is very less, and then land utilization for agriculture crops is also less in that now. So these are the crops which can grow in the areas where nothing can be grown, and they require very minimal maintenance. And these crops can be has a huge demand in multiple sectors. For example, in the cosmetics and the flavors. And in my view, I can say these are all like it is a liquid gold only, or it can call them as a green gold. And these are all shelf life is very high for these essential oils. Almost it is close to 2.5 years, 3 years. Nothing can happen in this actually. So you can preserve them as and when demand is there, you can sell it. And when there is a demand loss is there or it is demand is less, you can preserve it for longer time. So nothing will happen. As like it is simple quality methods or even simple storage SOPs if you can practice. So this could be an organized business actually. And then you have and then not all the species produce good amount of essential oil. There has been some of the designated varieties which has been available by many of the institutes. So you can procure them and then you can start growing. And then a lot of trainings will be provided for cultivation, downstreaming, harvesting process, and then essential oil extraction. A lot of information will be available with multiple institutions. You can take their help and then you can start that, sir. Actually, that would be one of my suggestions.